Today is Earth Day, and perhaps it's one day during the year when we talk about and think about being good stewards of the gifts that God has given us. But the Holy Father, of course, with his encyclical Laudato Si, wants us to be good stewards of the environment all the time. As a matter of fact, just one of the excerpts from Laudato Si, quoting the Holy Father, "Now, living our vocation to be protectors of God's handiwork is essential to a life of virtue. It's not an optional or a secondary aspect of our Christian experience." From Laudato Si, with the Laudato Si Project. Online at laudatosiproject.com is Joe Meyer, who is the founder and director of the Laudato Si Project. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning and happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day to you, too. And we, Laudato Si put the environment back on our radar as good stewards of the environment. And, you know, I work to be a good Catholic, but I have to tell you that, being a good steward of the environment, of not letting the water run all the time when I was doing dishes, about perhaps not recycling as well as I should have, about, well, any number of things, it really gave me pause when Laudato Si came out, and now it is just really the foundation of how I live as a protector of the gifts that God has given us. Is now that we've got Laudato Si in our rearview mirror for about 6 months, do you see the messages of Laudato Si still being lived out among the people that you work with and you communicate with through the Laudato Si Project?
Well, first of all, John, I think you bring up a good point that it's a process and it's not easy, and it's an intentional decision every day to try to live more sustainably. And just like any other aspect of our faith life, it takes practice and it takes step by step, and sometimes we don't live it out perfectly, but not to be discouraged at all. But yeah, definitely I think it's been brought to the forefront of the minds of students and adults and parishes and schools. And one of the ministries we do is really supporting schools and parishes in keeping it in the forefront and helping them find ways to live it out in unique ways where they are in their parish or school or other organization.
And how do you specifically do that with a parish?
Right. So with a parish, we're starting parish partnerships. So really, it's working with maybe the adult ministry team, human concerns committee, youth ministry. And each parish kind of has unique circumstances. Some have done Laudato Si studies. Some have not. Some have a school attached that we might find ways to engage the school and engage the students in various conservation projects. So really, it's speaking with those parishes and finding out what the needs are, and really creating kind of a Laudato Si project team, a core team of interested parishioners to really move things forward. So this isn't just kind of a flash thing here that something takes place when the encyclical comes out and then dies out, but really a long-term sustaining kind of mission of the parish where folks at the parish can get educated about these issues and can plug in what ways they see fit.
What the Holy Father did about 6 months ago in Laudato Si on care for our common home is take a look at the human roots, what you and I are responsible for with the ecology of our environments around our homes, in our communities, on planet Earth, again, using the gifts that God has given us, and then also some very practical things because the Holy Father is so pastoral and so practical, and a number of things that at least we're doing even here at Relevant Radio is you go out of a room, you turn out a light, you think twice about what you waste, and that could be anything from copy paper to the amount of food that gets just scraped off our plates and into the garbage. Are you running the water all the time when you're brushing your teeth? There are so many simple things that we can do that do have a global impact where, Joe, we can live out Laudato Si.
No, and that's absolutely right. It's just a different way of viewing the world, viewing God's creation as a gift, and knowing that we are stewards of it, and it isn't infinite, and we need to keep it functioning in its full state to support humanity and to support all the other creatures. So yeah, viewing the world differently in that way, those small everyday decisions become kind of more routine. And when we're talking the number of people on this planet, it is transformative, those small decisions.
Very transformative, especially and the United States is probably the worst offender in terms of waste and waste of food and also hunger. Of all of the civilized countries, hunger is a real problem here in the United States, and that's one of the things that the Holy Father tackled head on.
Right, and that's one of the things I love about Laudato Si is how it integrates these other aspects where, this isn't just an environmental issue about, some distant forest or animal that we may or may not care about. This is something that affects us socially and culturally, obviously ecologically, spiritually. It's this full integral ecology he talks about, and our love for the poor and our love for the environment are very much intertwined, and I think he makes that very clear in the encyclical.
In the last half hour, Joe, we were speaking with Father Jerry Murray in New York City, and we were talking about moral relativism, and that is something that does apply in our conversation about Laudato Si, because, usually as a society, we are living in the here and now, and it's all about today, and the Holy Father is saying, wait a minute, we have to look at future generations. We just can't be, yes, we want to be good stewards today for future generations. We want to leave this gift of the planet in good shape to the next generation, and the generation after that, and the generation after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's beautiful. And I think that topic of consumption is really key to that. I've been having people post on Laudato Si Project's Facebook page how they're living Laudato Si, and one of the posts that came in was really striking to me. A woman had mentioned that she refuses, reduces, and recycles in that order. And that first one, refusing, is saying that there's times we have to say no to consumption, that just because we can afford it or because it's available to us, it's not necessarily something we need to enter into or consume. And I think that's a hard message for us. Recycling has been hard enough over the decades, but really that reducing and refusing, I think that's the challenge that lies before us.
And in reducing, you don't think of Laudato Si, this encyclical from the Holy Father, extending into the grocery store, but how many times do you see 10 cans of soup for $2? So you just say, that's worth it. Let me get, by the way, a can of soup is $2, so $10 is probably $20 for a can of for 10 cans of soup. But, when you buy en masse in a grocery store and you take everything home and, 3 to 5 of those cans that you have purchased continue to sit on the shelf, that's not only part of consumption, but that's also part of the waste. If it goes past its expiration date and you just toss it into the trash, it's like, oh, wait a minute. When so many people can be helped by that consumption, if God has blessed you with that providence and, you are consuming 10 cans of something because it's on sale, take 7 to a food pantry.
Right, and that's the beauty of Laudato Si, is it can be incorporated into our everyday lives. I mean, we're eating throughout the day. And one of the things we do within Marquette High School, where I teach environmental science, is looking at, where's this stuff coming from? What's the life cycle? Not just that cost at the grocery store, but are there environmental costs, other humanitarian costs associated with it? And really, with food consumption, looking at what is the impact of that food I'm buying, because we're not always seeing that or thinking about that. And again, it's just a different way of viewing these things. And, if people are interested, there's definitely lots of resources out there, and LaudatoSiProject.com has lots of resources to help them, even in regards to food, make maybe, small everyday choices, but really important choices that have a big impact.
As you lead high school students, Joe, and we look at this Generation Z, do they have a greater appreciation of the environment, of the gifts that God has given us? Are they better stewards? Will they be better stewards going forward? Because it could also be argued that they've grown up in this age of consumption.
Right. I think it's a challenge. I definitely see that desire, and the Pope even quotes that in Laudato Si, that young people demand change. And I do see that. At the same time, I do see the challenge of consumerism so kind of deep-rooted in who they are. And one of the things that we do with Laudato Si Project is to try to reconnect, especially young people, to the natural world. Get them outside, whether that's doing some sort of conservation or stewardship work, community cleanup or river cleanup, restoring a prairie or oak savanna, whatever it is, maybe, snowshoeing, hiking. Connecting them with the outdoors, it's developing that curiosity and that love for the natural world. That, I think, is ultimately what's going to help them make those day in and day out decisions to live more sustainably.
Restoring Our Natural Connection, the Laudato Si Project. We have the link on our Morning Air Facebook page should you want to get the Laudato Si Project involved in your parish or your school. And they have been involved in many parishes and many schools teaching all about the teachings of the Holy Father in Laudato Si. Joe Meyer is the founder and director of the Laudato Si Project. Joe, thank you for your time this morning on Morning Air.
Thank you. Have a great day, John.
Joe Meyer this morning on Earth Day, on this Earth Day, living out Laudato Si. Coming up next, we'll take a look at the 10 things that Pope Francis wants us to know about the environment as we educate ourselves and become good stewards of the gifts God has given us on this